All right, we record. Hey everybody, this is Mark from Cedar Creek Bottom Farmstead Life with another fireside chat. This is a recording instead of a live, um, and I've got Brother David and Brother Spencer on here with us tonight, and we're going to go in a subject that a lot of people don't hit a whole lot on the cryptid channels. I mean, some of them do, but we're going to go down a little different road tonight. Uh, so everyone knows Spencer from Woodwalkers. And then we got Mr. David Hughes. He's been on with me a couple of times and been on Sawdust, I think, one time or two times. I can't remember. When Miss Sherry had so I titled this video The Coming Deception because that is a broad subject. So tonight we're going to probably hit on some different things that you may not hear on a regular Bigfoot channel. So we're going to go into aliens, maybe AI, biblical stuff, and we'll go from there. Now, we all three kind of lean the same way. I mean, we all might have little differences here or there or something, but we're all still heading in the same direction. And of course, we all could be wrong. I mean, we might miss this whole thing and be something else. But I feel what we're going to talk about is on the right track. May be wrong, and if I am wrong, I will admit it. So it's good to see you, fellas. I'm glad you joined me tonight. Well, this is something I've been wanting to do for a while.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yes, it's an honor and a privilege. This is honestly, it's something, frankly, Mark, that I don't even know how long you and I have been talking. I want to say it's at least about 3 years or so. And this is a topic, frankly, that you and I have discussed on a number of occasions. We talk frequently, and something, again, that we have discussed, talked about doing a show on this and never got around to it. So it's here. And even Spencer and I have had a conversation on that order.
We have.
Right. So, well, you know, in our news, especially probably in the last year and a half, a lot has popped up about the UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them. You know, we had some government sort of disclosure. I mean, they didn't come out and say a whole lot, but, you know, they had some hearings in Congress where some folks came and gave testimony. I've noticed that a lot of ministers, preachers have started talking about this more, a lot of them. You're just starting to hear this more and more. Of course, one good thing about us talking about this tonight, I know y'all both may be aware there's something out in space heading this way right now.
That's right.
You know, we don't really know what it is. You know, some scientists say it's acting like a machine. Some people say it's just an asteroid or a comet. And then again, it may be somebody blowing smoke on us. We don't really know, you know. I think NASA's come out and said a little bit about it. And also they're talking about it's about the size of Manhattan. So it's pretty good size, whatever it is. But they say it does have some mechanical motion to it. And what I mean by mechanical, it's like it's deliberately moving and stopping at times. And so, you know, it's
correct.
Y'all excuse me, there's a little bug or something that done got in here. But so I know this is a subject that's kind of hard to talk about too, because a lot of us, I know me and Spencer's put a lot more of our energy toward the cryptids, the Bigfoot and the dog men, that type of stuff. We've put more energy to that. than we have some of these other things. So I know both y'all have some how you feel about it. So David or Spencer, whoever wants to start off first. I know we got AI we can talk about. We'll talk some about the aliens, and there's some other things we can go down. There's tons of stuff we can cover tonight, but I know we can't get in it real deep like we'd want to because of time constrictions. But um, you know, just with what's happening in the last year or so has made me really start watching other avenues more. I'll be honest with you, I get where I don't watch as much Bigfoot stuff as
Yeah.
I do more alien biblical stuff. I'm paying a lot more attention to that, and I believe that's on purpose. I
I,
believe,
I think it's coming to the forefront. I think it's being pushed out now to the point where you can't ignore it and you can't focus all of your attention on the cryptid stuff. And at the same time, and Dave, I'm not. I'll let you go in one sec. I just want to.
Take your time, brother.
I just want to. I want to set a tone from my perspective. I think all of us. I know I've talked to Mark specifically about this. There's so much happening right now. If you're paying attention, that is it's escalating to a point where you have to pay attention to it. And I think the cryptid stuff, I mean, we know about cryptids, we talk about it all the time, but the cryptids is that's something that's here. And for people that have not experienced it, I guess it sounds really fascinating. But for people that have experienced it, it's like once you realize that they're real, uh, you still want to pay attention to it and everything. But this other stuff is being pushed to the foreground, and it's something that we all just have speculation and opinions about. And I think we do need to have a greater conversation about what is happening now, because it's more than just having a show about Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever. And there's important stuff happening right now. And I mean, Dave and Mark, they're well more versed in biblical stuff. I'm a novice on all that. But I will say that I think that a lot of this is biblical or from a higher power. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff is going to go back to God at the end of the day. And I think we need to pay attention to what's happening right now, and we need to discuss some of the stuff that's happening right now, in case a lot of people in the worlds that we deal with are not paying attention to it.
I think that is incredibly well articulated. You made a comment earlier when we were backstage about that God is in control. I cannot agree with you more. And if you look up from a biblical perspective, let me back up. I have studied these things probably in earnest. I mean, just sometimes on a daily basis since about 1992. And it actually started, I got heavily involved in the geopolitical studies, and believed a lot of the lies and was, Republican and so on and so forth. And that's when I was in my mid to late teens and in the early 20s. And then I had an epiphany, I would say back in 1992. And then I started studying the giants and the Nephilim and all that. And we'll touch more on that here in a bit. But what I would like to underscore is exactly what you said, because I think that it is incredibly incisive. It's very well articulated, because we are transitioning from the church age into the age of the coming of the Son of Man, who is Jesus Christ. When I look at things, I'm going to look at them from a biblical perspective. And believe me, I've run the gamut. I was brought up, I was a pretty rebellious guy. I always knew there was a God. I just didn't care. And I can't say that any more emphatically. I was a very rebellious individual. I engaged in a lot of philosophy. In fact, I told you, Spencer, I mean, one of my I had a double major in finance and philosophy. And I started to lean much more towards the secular mindset because I wanted to get my kicks. But the Lord kind of knocked me on the head when I was in about early 20s. And my entire purview has changed. So to expand on what you're saying, we are transitioning from the church age to the coming of the Son of Man. And from a secular perspective, okay, you're hearing this even from Melania Trump. We are entering into the age of Aquarius. We've been hearing about the age of Aquarius since whoever that group was back in the 70s when I was a little kid started singing about it. And then you have Trump talking about the golden age. Well, the golden age is steeped in Greek mythology, which is not a myth, and we'll touch on that too. But just to set the tone, ultimately, I want to read something, if I might, where out of the Old Testament and then the New Testament. The Old Testament, in Psalm 24:1, it says that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And then if you go over to Ezekiel 18 and 4, he says, behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, as so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth shall die. Okay, to touch on that very briefly, you said that, and again, this is incredibly well articulated. You said that this is becoming, all of these situations, the incidents of the sightings of cryptids has escalated to an unbelievable degree. The alien agenda and the alien influence and impact on our society is also coming to the fore, and it's even being acknowledged in Congress, even though there have been suggestions and purposeful suggestions to condition us for decades in movies and commercials, all of those things. Okay, at some point, okay, we're going to have a choice, and even when we had I think it was 2 shows ago with Mr. Tim and Greg and Mark. Mr. Tim Baker said, he made a very specific comment. He said, at some point, people are going to be forced to make a choice, and that's where we're headed. We're headed to make a choice. Nothing that we're seeing is by happenstance. It's not by accident. It's all on purpose. It's absolutely being driven by 2 forces, good and evil. It's that simple. And people, even the mark of the beast, which I absolutely believe is coming, and AI factors heavily into that, just like the alien agenda does. It is not going to take anybody by surprise, and everyone is going to be well aware of this. So I want to go to Mark 24 or Matthew 24. If you'll bear with me just one second, and then I'd like to hear what Mark has to say about it, and Spencer. So we go to Matthew 24, and I'm going to read out of the King James, and it says, and he sat upon the Mount of Olives. The disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when shall all these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name. Okay, coming in his name, saying that I am Christ. Those are 2 different conditions. To come in his name. Okay, people that profess to be Christians but really aren't. We're seeing a lot of false prophets, and that I am Christ and shall deceive many through false teachings. And ye shall hear, and this is where it gets heavy, you shall hear of wars, rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, which also includes cultures. Think about the culture wars. Kingdom against kingdom, which are nations, okay, or countries. There shall be famines, pestilences, earthquakes, in diverse places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows. Now he goes further, but tell me what he said in that passage, how he is quoted, what we're not seeing right now.
We're seeing everything. Every bit of what he just said is there. It's happening right now. The culture wars. We're starting. You correct. There's false prophets out there everywhere right now, and they're telling you this. They're telling you that. There's people even talking about. They go into the subject we're talking about with the aliens. They're saying they're coming to rescue us, to save us, to take us out of here, or to help humanity get back to where we once was.
To the garden. Okay, there was even a song back in the 60s, "We're stardust, we're golden." Okay, and it talks about going back to the garden, because in the garden, the end was prophesied from the beginning.
Right. And then you have the Anunnaki, who is thrown in there a bunch, which is supposed to have been gods who created us. They came here, they created us. We were whatever we were supposed to be then. Then they decided to leave, which to me sound like fallen angels all the way. But because they gave us technology, helped us get going. Then they packed themselves up and left, and they're supposed to come back one day. Well, that all sounds like fallen angels to me. But I do. There is so much happening right now, you can't even keep up with it. If you was to try to go watch regular TV and the stuff they are reporting on, half the stuff they're not even telling you. Yeah. If you sit there and watch that all day, I believe it'd blow your mind up. I mean, I think you get so overwhelmed with everything you're hearing that you get to the point where, and I mean, I hear a lot of people say that now, that they can't hardly watch news anymore because of so much stuff you hear all the time. I mean, we see it in our government. We see it in our society, in our towns where we live, that something ain't right. Stuff is not right. I mean, we see how people are acting. And now we're throwing this new technology that's new to us, but it's been around a while, the AI stuff, which could easily deceive people. I mean, every time I pick up my phone, I got AI trying to say, "What you want?" Well, I mean, it's almost like it's taking over my phone. And you type something in on Google to look up something, and AI is trying to answer it for you right off the bat. And it's almost like it's taking over. And I think it will take over. I think it will get to the point where we won't know what we're really looking at. So yes, everything you just read from Mark, I think all that's taking place because we're having a lot of natural occurrences happening. All these prophets, we got stuff going on in Israel right now that has a lot of significance. If you really look at it, there's some real significant things going on. Israel's fixing to take Gaza over, but also Trump just come out and said, "Hey, we're going to help with that. We're going to help make it. Gaza is where the Nephilim came from. Besides Mount Hermon, that's their home.
Where's that?
Gaza is the Nephilim.
Absolutely, yes.
That has a lot of significance. Palestinian flag they came out here with a while back had 6 fingers on it. I mean, that's crazy. Why would somebody put 6 fingers on their flag for? We know what that comes from. Yeah. So I may be getting off subject here, but what I'm trying to say, everywhere you look, there's something popping up. And I mean, it's every day, even with your regular society, people you work with that you're around, you see stuff happening. So yes, I believe we're right in that time. I think we're going in that golden age, just like it's been talking about. It goes back to Greek mythology. Also, they refer to the golden times before the flood because the Nephilim and all them were having their big time, doing what they wanted to do on the earth. So I think we are entering in that period. How deep we're in it, I don't know yet. I don't think none of us can really know where that's at. But, every day this is escalating just higher and higher. like you brought up about the cryptids. Yes, a lot of people say, well, it's because it's technology, and I think that's a little of it. But I think there's channels for people to tell their stuff now, like these podcasts we're doing. So they're getting comfortable with it because they're seeing they're not getting ridiculed like they used to. So I said, so they're going to come out with more people's going to talk about it. So we're going to hear that. Where years ago that was taboo for you to talk about that. If you went and told people I seen Bigfoot, you might lose your job, get laughed at. Well, now that's not as much as it used to be. So people are more willing to come out and tell their stories. Same way with the aliens. There's more and more people telling their experiences with the aliens. The people that's getting abducted, waking up on spaceships with a avatar or whatever you want to call it, sitting there fooling with them. And I mean, it's just every time you turn around, it's just getting wackier and wackier. I mean, it's like we're almost living in a cartoon now, and if you kind of get what I'm saying, how you see things happen in a cartoon, it's almost like real life now. And I'll shut up from Aaron and Spencer. Go on. I hope what I said just made sense, but it's hard to make sense of what's going on, really, in some ways,
I'm going to try to make a couple points and string them all together. And this is going to sound like all over the place, but just hear me out for a minute. Number one, I don't stand a chance of comparing scripture with y'all, but humor me if you would, and just try to understand where I'm coming from. I'm going to start with number one, thou shalt have no other God but me. I'm going to start with beware false prophets. And I'm not going to go real biblical, but I'm going to try to make a lot of this stuff make sense.
Oh yeah, I mean you just threw the gauntlet down right there, Bubba. But go ahead.
I'm going to say, from a very down to earth perspective. Now, me personally, I don't believe in the scientific theory of evolution. I believe in the biblical version of how man came about. But I'm going to express this way so that people can get a grasp of what I'm looking at. If you look scientifically, mankind has been around for 250 to approximately 300,000 years. Up until 120 or so years ago, we didn't know a lot about physics or even electricity. We cannot right now explain 100% how a helicopter flies. We know that does, but we the mechanics of it and how it works physically is kind of complicated. 30 years ago, 35 years ago, we had landline telephones. 30 years ago, 35, 40, somewhere in that range, the internet came about being, and now we have cell phones, and you have the power to look up anything and communicate worldwide at the touch of a button. We've come so far, so fast, that I think there is a very good possibility we have intentionally overlooked God's will, where we come from, our connection with nature. And I think that for a lot of people, the subjects of like aliens, cryptid, angels, demons, revelations, I think that all of it is so daunting to consider because so many. I'm almost 50 years old. There are so many people. I'm right at half 100. There are people older than me that talk about a lot of stuff that I don't know everything about, and I have to stop and look it up. There are people that are younger than me that have a whole different nomenclature, and I got to be honest, I don't understand most people that are 30 years old or younger, because to me they're not looking at the world the same way as I am. So I'm gonna try to condense this and bring it into focus. I think that we've seen so much here lately, especially in the past handful of years. Uh, it's all coming so rapidly. I think that so many people have no way to put it into context. I'm not claiming that I do, but I think that so many people have no way to really appreciate what is happening. That a lot of this stuff is it's just lost in the details. It's lost in the fog of war. So much is happening so quick right now. And I think that all of it is connected. I think that the cryptid thing is connected. I think that the AI thing is connected. I think that, the biblical end of world stuff is connected. At the same time, though, I have to say that generations before me have always had something. If you remember 2000, whenever the millennium was going to hit, everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, going to be the end of the world." There's been so many times where that has happened that a lot of people are
They're
desensitized.
desensitized,
Yeah,
but not.
desensitized to it. Exactly. Go ahead, Dave. I know you got some points
No,
to
please.
no.
I'm hanging on every word. Everything you just said is right on time.
I just think that at the end of the day, I think what we are seeing right now, I think there's a very good chance that what we're seeing right now is the lead up to the opening salvo to, like what Dave was talking about, this new age that is coming in on us. I think we are seeing the signs right now that all of this is coalescing and coming to a head. And I think you are going to see the most amazing and terrifying things coming in the very near future. And I think if you're not paying attention to it, you've lost your damn mind. You need to pay attention to what is happening around you, because the news isn't covering it, and people have become so desensitized that they're not paying attention to it. And I think at almost 50 years old, this is the most extreme stuff I've ever seen being exposed right now. And the shocking stuff like the aliens and the UAPs and all that kind of stuff, it's happening right now in front of our eyes, and people aren't even blinking at it because they've gotten so
Right, right.
out there.
And that's a very good way to bring deception in.
You're muted, Dave.
You're muted.
Everything that you said is so on point. It's very well articulated. It sets the groundwork really for what it is that we have discussed, what you and I have discussed to some extent, Spencer, and certainly what Mark and I have discussed, because we went from just overview. We went from the industrial age, starting in the late 19th century, all the way through about the early 20th century, and then we went post-industrial. Okay, then we went into the information age, and we're still in the information age, but now we're transitioning into artificial intelligence. And these things, what you said, you made an absolutely incisive comment about how we have foregone the counsel and the direction of Almighty God. We have extricated him. We've kicked him out of society and therefore somewhat out of consciousness because in favor of our own agenda. And if you look at social media is it is at its zenith. And you're seeing these social media influencers, a lot of them are killing themselves because that is their entire world. Okay, and it is influencing our children. These cell phones are influencing everybody. They, to the extent that we have forgotten how to communicate, we've forgotten how to think. The hypothalamus is shrinking because we can't even remember phone numbers. Okay, we look at this computer the entire time for all of our information because this is our mind. This has become our mind. And you have people that what they do on social media is they're in their own reality show. They are stars of their own show. Look at all the podcasts. Look at all of the quote unquote influencers. Look at all of the social media that's driving agendas, even in politics, because it's influencing them. I mean, I just heard something the other day where Kash Patel, the FBI director, was upset because of the social media pressure that he was enduring for not engaging in or executing his duties the way that the public thought he should do so. That's how powerful this thing has become. And when we think about this, to expand further on what you were saying, along with artificial intelligence, what's happened here is that we have replaced our persona, our soul has been replaced by artificial intelligence, and that will continue to escalate. That will drive things. In fact, it's not only just going to drive things and continue to be a point of division and used as a weapon. Now, in and of itself, artificial intelligence, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's how it's being used. It's how it's being facilitated. But more so than that, I heard a statistic the other day that by 2030, it will more than double the requirements for energy, okay, which is electricity,
That's true,
and water consumption. Okay, water consumption, which is number one on our list besides energy for the needs across this nation. There are people in the Midwest, people in the West that are hurting, and a lot of it has to do with these computer farms. Okay, but there's more to it than that because the politicians are taking and they're commandeering all the water because it's a quote unquote state resource. I don't want to get off into that rabbit hole, but at the end of the day, we're in big trouble. But what's more is, you all say this because every time I hear, whether it's Cedar Creek Farmstead or Woodwalkers or one of our other family of podcasters, one of the common phrases that you all use is it's all connected, because every bit of this is, and it's being driven by forces that people are not aware of. Now, I've got more to say about that, but I'd like to hear what you fellas have to say.
Well, I mean, both of you are on point. You talking about the water? There was somebody the other day. Where did I see that at? Said that one of the big elites said they owned all the water in the world. I can't remember who it was.
It's actually I think it's I want to say it's BlackRock, but what they were saying was, because I remember this too, because I'd heard this a few weeks ago, where what they're saying was that first they try to control the food, and that will become more and more of an issue. But now they're going after the water because they're saying specifically that water is not a human right. Yeah. Even though you go without 3 days, you die.
Right. So I knew I heard that somewhere. And we're losing control more and more every day of our own lives. I mean, really, we're almost controlled completely now, if you really stop.
That's it.
Unless you have the Lord Jesus Christ in your life, then you have to still be real careful, because we can be deceived by anything. We can be deceived by people, material. Even this cryptid stuff can deceive us. It can pull us down a road that gets us to where that's all we can think about. Or it can be anything. I mean, we can get so involved in sports. I know some people, that's their whole conversation is sports. You can't have an intelligent conversation because it's either Auburn, Alabama, or this or that, a pro ball, this. And you're going like, man, can you not talk about life for a minute?
But that's
that is their
being
life.
used for
That
tribal.
is their life. And same way in the Bigfoot community. There's some folks, that's all they can talk about. And I'm not knocking them, but that's all their study. And it's, I know people in the hunting community, that's all they can do, talk about deer hunting all year long, you know. So we're getting controlled by different things, and it becomes a form of idolatry. Just like these phones are becoming a form of idolatry. We've got to have them with us all the time. I heard somebody make a comment the other day. They have a school now for kids to go detox from these things.
Yeah.
It tells you how much. And let me ask you this: if these things were to shut off today, I know we're kind of getting off subject here a little bit, but really it is and it ain't. But if this thing was to shut off, how many people would go berserk after a little while on this? I mean, really, how many of us, we're so tied to this thing, how many people would really freak out over it if it shut off for a couple? We didn't have internet at work the other night. Some of them people was miserable there at work. They act like it was the end of the world, you know, because they didn't have internet. And, I mean, they act like they didn't know what to do with themselves. You know, and I'm like, what in the world? You know, and don't get me wrong, I'm tied to this too. I'm guilty too. There's no doubt about it. All of us are guilty. But this was about to drive him guys crazy at work because they didn't have it. And in fact, I kind of enjoyed it. It was a peaceful night to me. But I mean, I walked around, talked to people and stuff. And that's the other thing I used to remember before these come out. When we used to take break at work, I actually knew my coworkers a lot better because we sit there and interacted with each other at break or at lunch. You go to lunch now, 90% of the people, they're sitting here looking at that. And it ain't they're answering messages or talking to somebody. They're playing games or they're looking at stuff. And I see this everywhere. And so part of our control is already here. The AI is going to bump it up, you know, because AI is tied up with that anyway. But so to me, this is where it has started. This is when it really got going, which would have been cell phones came out mid-90s. I had one. I had the one that's in the bag. It looked like an army telephone. And then the flip phones come out, around early 2000. Then you had the Nextel come out. It's like a two-way radio and a phone. Y'all know probably what I'm talking about, the Nextels. And the next thing you know, we started having a smartphone, you know, and Spencer's right. In a 30, 40-year span, we have boomed. And it just ain't this. It's in everything. Technology and industry has boomed. I mean, I started off with wrenches, changing parts. Now we don't always change parts. We go in a computer and adjust it.
Yeah.
Or we go in and teach pin and tell this robot, hey, this is what you're going to do today. I mean, and that thing all talks. And I've actually sit there and watched that stuff talk to each other. Two machines talking. And I know that's going wild, but they got little lights all in there. It's called PLC. They sit there and talk to each other. Just like me and you sit here and talk. This one to tell, hey, I'm done what I've done. You need to do what you need to do now. Okay, I'll go over here and do my part now. And then this one say, I'm done over here. And this one, oh, it's my time to start. I mean, we've come. So it just ain't in the cell phones. It's in the industry now with automation. Look at the cars they're coming out with now. We even got cars that's fixing to be driving themselves. All you got to do is sit back, car drive itself down the road. So we're letting technology take us over. We're getting where we can't think anymore. We can't problem solve like we used to. We every time I look up something, I go to this instead of a book that I used to have. I used to pick up books and look. And that's one reason Rebecca pushes books so much from our channel, is because if all this was to shut down for some reason, and it will one day, it's coming. It will shut down for a while. Somewhere down the period, this will shut down. And it will cause some people to freak out. But so, and going back like what David said, back in the early 19th century, we were still in horse and buggies. We were still doing everything the hard way. And all of a sudden, boom, industrial age hit. And boy, it accelerated. Now, what happened there, I do not know. What kind of technology got turned loose right there? Something got turned loose somewhere that got man to start really advancing that quick. Could it be the alien technology? Possible. I don't know. You know, I can't answer that. But you know, we're on a hill like a snowball heading to hell. There we go. That's the best way to say it. I don't know how. Even kids now, you can't have a conversation with a teenager no more.
Well,
they look at you like you lost your mind when you try to talk to them. You know, go ahead.
How many times have you heard someone in the past 15 years say, I don't answer my phone, I answer text. I don't want to have a conversation, I want to text. If you've gotten to that point as a society where you cannot be bothered to answer the phone, talk to someone, human to human, have a conversation, like what you were talking about with the computers talking back and forth. If you've gotten to that point, you've gotten so far, in my opinion, people are going to hate on me for this, but in my opinion, if you've gotten to the point where you cannot answer the phone and have a 15, 20, 30-minute conversation, I think there's something wrong with that. And let me put it like this. Again, this is going to sound cryptic like the first thing that I started off with, but if you eat 3 meals a day, every time you're hungry, you got something to eat. You just go in there and get it. Let's say you have unlimited money, and while you're at work, you stop at Bojangles for breakfast and McDonald's for lunch, and then you stop and pick up a pizza for dinner. If you live like that, you have no idea what hunger is. And hunger has no meaning to you. No, there's no lesson to be learned from it. There's no value in hunger because you're never hungry. Do you understand what I'm saying? And
I know exactly where you come from.
I think spiritually, you need to connect with God, with nature, with the universe. And I think that the more, until 5 years ago, we never heard of turbo cancers. Then we had the pandemic and stuff, and now we've got turbo cancers. Where the hell did it come from? And all of this stuff is escalation. We are speeding towards a bottleneck, a finite point. We are accelerating at an accelerated rate. And people can't even be bothered to pay attention to it, or people have been conditioned to not pay attention to it.
100%.
And I also, at the same time, though, let me say this. I think that it is in the nature of all things that we know of. Now you put a human mindset on pretty much everything. Look at talking about cryptids. Look at how many people put like human mindset on, hey, a booger or a dog man has to be doing this or this because that's the way that we would do it, or this is what it must mean because that's what it means for us. You have no idea what it means to them, but I wonder if it's necessary. Is the place that we're at right now, is the growth and how far we've come and the acceleration, is this necessary to either teach us a lesson, or is it necessary for us to hit the next level where people go, holy crap, we had it all wrong. Texting somebody and not talking to them is the wrong way to live, and staying inside and being on our phone or on the internet watching YouTube videos all day is the wrong way, and I should be outside walking on the beach or walking through the woods. Is it a necessary learning curve? Is this part of nature? Is it part of God's will? Is this the thing that summons in the end of times? I don't know, but I know that where we're at right now, biologically, spiritually, our heart, our soul, where we are at right now as the human race, this is not, in my opinion, this is not meant to be who we are, what we are, how we're meant to be. And this is only going to go one of two ways. And I'm afraid it's going to go the down way instead of the up way. But we're heading to a cataclysm the way that we are operating right now.
You two gentlemen, I'm going to tell you what. Context. Two words. Mark, you used it at the first part of your kind of narrative. You used the word control. Spencer, you just used the word soul. We have given up control, and we've done so willingly. And what that does is that that is, believe it or not, this is going to sound far out there, but just give me a minute. We have willingly given up control, which is part of the Luciferian tenet. But we have been, and both of you used the word programmed. We have been programmed to do so because we willingly gave up the control of our own lives. Okay, these computers have taken the place of our soul. You use the word soul. This tells us what to think. It tells us what to do. We make our schedules around this. And you have individuals, young people, that cannot have a conversation, okay, without consulting this thing, without looking at a website, looking something up. They can do nothing. You have to use AI to tell you where to go. Sooner or later, it's going to tell you what to do and what to think. It already is doing this, which brings me to another point. I was listening to somebody talk about AI the other day, and what it said is that AI is already out of control. The creators have been scared of this. Elon Musk is scared of it. That ought to tell you something right there. Well, AI at some point in the very near future, and I'm talking about within a couple of years or less, what it will do is it will be able to read our biorhythms. Okay, why do you think we have smartwatches and all these heart rate things and health applications on these phones that monitor our health? You have applications that monitor your health. What is it doing? It's learning the human genome. It's learning about the human body and how it functions. It's already learned it, and it will be able to read, and this is from AI itself and the creators, at the subatomic level, it will be able to read our thoughts, or at least project what our thought processes are, and it will preempt them. This is a very dangerous thing. You also said that we're going headlong to a finite point, a cataclysm. Okay, it's not that it's coming, it's already here. We just haven't reached it yet because this is going to escalate. Why have things, again, this is overview, context. Why is it that things have escalated the way that it has? Because of computers. We went from industrial age to post-industrial age to the information age, which we are transitioning now into artificial intelligence, and information and the exchange of information has exponentiated to the extent that it was doubling every so many years. Now it's doubling every so many months. Then it will become, look at the news cycles and how fast everything is turning. Okay, because we have willingly given up control. This thing has taken over our soul. Why is that? Because there's an adversary, and I'm gonna wax biblical here, the prince of the power of the air. Okay, it's going to come down to who you are aligned to. Mr. Tim made another statement when we were on with Miss Sherry in one of those 2 or 3, I don't remember what, I think it was only 2 that we did. He said that God has been taken out of our lives. Well, let me tell you something. To an extent, that is true. But what I will tell you also is that God Almighty has been taken out of our lives. But the idea of God, Godness, God likeness, Christ consciousness, which is not Jesus Christ, but a new age tenet. Okay, going back to what I read in Matthew 24, many will come in my name. People have replaced God Almighty with themselves. They put themselves on the throne, but then they've also willingly given it back to the control, back to now what is quote unquote artificial intelligence. Okay. That's going to sound hokey to a lot of people, but if you look at this from a contextual perspective and where we are, where people cannot even have a conversation, they can't associate with one another. These children, these kids from millennials on back are on all kinds of SSRIs and psych medications because they're anxious, because they spend all of their time on these phones. It tells them what to do, what to think, where to go, and how to get there. Think about that for a second. And it all goes back to the beginning. Every bit of this. That's why we are where we are, and it is by design. Because we have willingly given up control. We have given up the right, if you will, which again, it's a Luciferian tenet, to control our lives and, frankly, to submit. We've given up the desire and the will to submit to the highest power, which is God Almighty, Jesus Christ, who is Creator God, to the lesser God, the God of this world. And that's kind of where we're at. There's much more to this because we haven't even touched on the alien thing, which I do think that we ought to get to, but I'd like to hear if what your perspectives are on this.
Go ahead, Spencer. Come on.
No, you go ahead, Mark. I can't follow that.
Yes, you can.
Well,
you've been setting the groundwork here, brother.
Well, let me say this. We gave up control when Adam and Eve partook of what they wasn't supposed to.
That's right.
We gave up our birthright. We gave up being head of the earth. One time, God gave us dominance on this earth, which is kind of a form of a birthright, if you think about it. If you go back in the Bible, I'm going to talk to you in a minute. Every time you turn around, it's birthright, 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 birthright. I mean, you just follow it. I mean, every book of the Bible is about birthright down through there. So, during the time of Noah, we don't know what all was going on, but we got a good definition that it was out of hand. It was crazy. We know the Nephilim were in full control. They done beat down the humans on Earth. The humans were pretty much subject to them in a certain way, except for a few that probably lived off away from everybody. That would be Noah, some of his people. They were probably clashing with these beings and other human beings at that time. And the Lord finally said, it's enough of this. The whole earth is corrupted. So he sends water and destroys it. Of course, after Noah, mankind starts coming back together some. Of course, some of the Nephilim didn't leave. Some of them are still here. Still here now. They still hybrids running around on the earth. I don't care what anybody says. There's hybrid blood. we're getting in that same scenario. We're there. Just like Jesus said, in the end of time, it would be just like the days of Noah. It will be confusion, madness going on. That's where we're at now. We're getting there. I mean, you see it every day in the news and everything. And then you throw this alien thing coming that will, to me will be using a deception. However they're going to use it, I don't know, but it'll be using a deception. Either the people will land and say, "Hey, we're the ones that created y'all. We come back to save y'all," and people are going to run to them. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how that's going to take place. But you know, Solomon said it correctly. There's nothing new on the earth that ain't already happened before. Now, it may not happen in the exact way it did thousands of years ago. Maybe a little difference there, but the same scenario has happened. You know, and we're fixing to see that same scenario in. But the biggest thing is like a video, like I put the title of this video, The Coming Deception, which I think is a ton of stuff. I think it's all going to come together. And I think that's the alien, the AI, the cryptid, the paranormal, the occult, the everything. And it's going to come, but it's like David said, you're going to have to figure out where you at. It's coming to, you're going to figure out what side you on, because it's coming to that very quickly. And then, you know, it's going to get ugly. But this is where, because let me go back and say this. Jesus even said, and I can't remember exactly what verse it is, so I'm not going to mess nobody up, but he said this, and David probably can back me up real quick. If he does not come back soon enough, even the elect could be deceived. You know what passage I'm talking about, David?
Yep.
What he's saying there, the deception could get so deep that if he didn't come on back, that his people would be deceived.
It's Matthew 24.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, and I'm going to tell you, this stuff is confusing because it's meant to be confusion. That way you can't make heads and tails out of it. It's madness. As one person said, it's just madness. I don't forget who said it. I heard somebody say it's just madness, and it is. Our brains cannot fathom what's fixing to take place. That's why that person in there, that men will be fearful and they will try to take their own lives. That's how bad it's going to get. So none of us can come out right here and say exactly what's going to happen because we don't know. But I think we got enough information to know that these different forms of things are going to cause us a lot of problems. And, I mean, they're causing us problems now. There's no doubt. I think they're going to cause us bigger problems. I hope I said that correctly. Sometimes it's hard to put your words together like you need to. Because, I mean, this is such a broad thing. It's hard to just nail it right on the head. I mean, it's just so many branches to it. And it is confusing because, and not just the prince of the air. We know who he is, the accuser. His seed's all on the earth too, and they're giving us chaos too everywhere. I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole, and we can pull some rabbits out of that hole. I'm gonna tell you now, there's some rabbits, and they're full fledged on this earth, and they got agendas they trying to push. But let me stop here and let Spencer or y'all talk again. That way I don't get confused myself. I mean, this subject is really hard to talk about, really. It's hard to really put it in words that you really need to put it in. But
in order for God to be God, God is omnipotent, all powerful, all knowing, all seeing, able to understand, control, influence everything. Thine will be done. God's will be done. At the end of the day, and I don't want to keep going on the biblical thing because there is a lot to talk about with the alien stuff and where we're headed, because I think it's coming into focus right now, and I do think we need to talk about that. But faith over fear, whatever is going to happen is God's will. If you believe that, I do. And I think it's more to put into context. It's to get the people that will pay attention to renew their faith and to bring others along with them instead of being fearful of it. I mean, if asteroid hit the Earth next week and we were all just gone, or if it was another ice age and within 1 month all communication was down, there were no grocery stores, within 1 month everybody froze to death, we're all dead. At the end of the day, is there anything you can do about it? No. You could blame it on science, or you could blame it on the government failing to protect us. But at the end of the day, if it's God's will, it's God's will. At least that's my view of it. So I'm going to segue into this. Instead of getting worried about what is happening and where it's going, and I do think I think that there is a point that you have to make in good faith. You have to stand up and have this conversation that we're having, and you have to try to tell it to people. But at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to change God's will of what's going to happen. So having said that, look at what's happening right now. And if it doesn't make you lean more into God, then that's on you. But look at what's happening now. And let me make a point to segue into it, if you would humor me on this. And this is kind of it's a very wide point, but just give me a minute. Throughout history, people have talked about orbs that look like the sun coming down in the sky. They've talked about orbs Chariots of Fire is about that. If you look at everything from Egyptian to Aztec, I mean, you see stuff about beings coming down from the skies, from the heavens. Okay. At the same time, there's a lot of stuff talking about things coming up from the water, which is why they changed the term from UFO to UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, because we're getting so many reports now of things coming out of the water. Now, on the alien thing, let me ask you this. I'd be interested in both y'all's opinions on this. What do you think chances are that what we are calling UFOs, UAPs, aliens, and angels or demons are the same thing? Because historically, I can make some sightings where a lot of it sounds very much the same. And we can get into the whole thing about like, hey, is it a deception? Is it an intentional deception to draw you away from God, to make you focus on this thing instead of that? But all I'm saying is the religious aspect is only going to apply to a certain amount of people. In my opinion, it should apply to everybody, but I mean, you got to be honest, not everybody is going to pay attention to the religious aspect of it. Nonetheless, though, the stuff that we're seeing now is crazy. There is so much stuff happening right now. At the end of the day, it's going to be what it's going to be. There's nothing I can do to stop it. We can pay attention to it and we can draw awareness to it, but there's nothing I can do to stop it other than to tell people, hey, get right with God and you better understand what's going on. But what do you think about the context of, is this, if there is the slightest chance that throughout history, what people thought of as messengers of God, angels, were actually what we are now calling aliens, what do you think about that? Go, Dave.
Okay. All right. Again, overview. You fellas are just, I mean, you're hitting it on all points. Mark used he referenced the garden when Eve was deceived and Adam did not tend to the garden and gave away his birthright. Okay, which is essentially what we're doing. We're not tending to the garden. We have given away our birthright. That is the lease deed to this earth to walk in authority and in dominion. Okay, fulfilling our purpose, fulfilling our scroll. Again, I'm going to wax biblical, but there is more to it than this, and then we'll tie it all in. Okay, then you, Spencer, what you said is that is this essentially have all of these things manifested to take our eye off the ball, our eye off the prize? Yeah. Is this essentially, has it been planned? Yes, it has. Okay, so what is the alien deception? Actually, let's go back to the garden first. Okay, and then he mentioned the Noah, and then we referenced Matthew 24. And I would encourage everybody, believer, non-believer, to read Matthew 24 because it encapsulates everything. And why was the earth wiped out and the earth flooded and all the inhabitants wiped out? Because God is a God of order. Everything has been established, and it's established in the first 10 words out of Genesis. In the beginning, okay, God created the heavens. Okay, that is space. I mean, in the beginning is time. The heavens is space, and the earth, which is matter. Okay, time, space, matter. All those things came into being all at the same time, and he created an order. But then if you go to Genesis 1:2, okay, it talks about how everything was without form and void. What that speaks of is a cosmic anarchy, okay, because Lucifer got angry, if you will, because he was not given the place of authority Adam was. And so what they went about doing was setting the order of God into chaos by not only destroying God's creation, but destroying and essentially polluting the seed of man. And in Genesis 6, which is where we got the giants, which is where you get the Anunnaki, which is where you get the Nephilim, which is where you get the Nephilim hybrids, and what I believe that we're seeing in the manifestation of these cryptids, which aren't Nephilim, they are Nephilim hybrids. Okay, because if you look, and I'll hit on this in just a second, but I'm going to hit the alien part. It's always all about the seed. Okay, the egg of woman, the seed of man. It is a seed war, and it's about polluting the bloodline. It is about polluting and perverting the bloodline and generations of man. Why? Because man is made in the image and likeness of God. And it doesn't matter if people believe this, and I don't want to be caustic, not in the least. That's not my point. I don't look to offend. But if one person gets this, then it's all worth it. If that's the case, It doesn't matter that people believe in religion or God Almighty and that Jesus Christ is God and that there is a devil, that there is a God and that there is a devil, because the people that control the narratives, they do. What they do though is they feign that they don't. Okay. So the seed war. Noah and his wife, his 3 sons, and their 3 spouses were essentially, now one of the spouses could have been, but for the argument's sake here, those 8 people, 8 in the Bible is the number of new beginnings. Those 8 people, Noah was pure in his generations. That is his issue. That's why all of the other inhabitants of the earth were destroyed, because you not only had human hybrids that mixed with the seed of angels, if you will. Now, it's not really a physical seed. I don't know how to articulate it other than it was a manipulation of the seed of man. But then you had these human animal hybrids, okay, which is why you get the Sagittarius, which is why you get the Taurus, which is why you get all of these other things. And if you look back in Greek mythology, okay, you had the Olympians. If you look at the Romans, you had the Titans. Okay, but before that, you had the Horites, the Hivites, and the Hittites. Okay, all of those things, all of those cultures had gods. If you look in the Hindu Vedas, they have gods. And what are they? Every one of them are hybrids. They're human animal hybrids. Okay, and then they say, well, those things are just, all of that is steeped in mysticism and it's archaic, and it is also not only trite, but a lot of superstition. Yet we get our source of government, our form of government, from the Romans. And in philosophy, which I majored in, you have one of my majors. You have the writings and the musings of Plato, of Aristotle, and that is one of the things that is taught in school. Yet these people that are in control want to pass that off as superstitious. It's nonsense, and they know it. But every one of the cultures, the great cultures that I've talked about, and I haven't talked about all of them, they all acknowledge that there was a flood. They all acknowledge that there were gods. And it even talks about that in the Bible. Psalm 82 is one of them. Okay, you were gods, you died like, now you will die like men. Okay, and I'm gonna hit on your angel and demon component, but I want to go back to the alien deception, which is the bigger issue here, so much greater than the cryptid component, simply because the cryptid component, while I believe that is part of Revelation 6 and 8, where it talks about the theory and the beast of the field that will be used to destroy the men, and men's heart will fail them for fear. I mean, think about it now. You have people that suffer PTSD because of the sightings of these cryptids. Okay, what's going to happen when these cryptids, of which that is escalating beyond my possible, I mean, what I can ever imagine. Okay, when they see cryptids out in the open or walking down the street or taking people out left and right, because the devil comes to steal, to kill, to destroy. Okay, back to the alien deal. The alien thing is important because what ends up happening is that and AI are going to drive the narrative. In fact, they're already driving the narrative, because the aliens, when you talk about these things, and it's absolutely at the zenith, it's at the top of this, because what I do think is going to happen is that we went from a little green men in these hokey uniforms to now these alien grays, and now these Nordics, okay, which are the tall whites. Why is that? You want to know why? It's pretty simple when you think about it. Because they have extracted the egg from the woman, the seed from the man. Okay, the alien grays are like avatars, but these tall whites, these Nordics, are more human looking because they're perfecting the process of generating the human genome to look more like humans. Except they're abominations to God because they're none of his. That's why people are seeing, and they're reporting seeing these Nordic whites, because they look like humans, because the enemy, okay, and this is where I'm going to hit on what you were talking about, the aliens and the demons. Understand something, and people that are in power, they understand this and they know it and they act upon it. You have the kingdom of God. You God good, devil bad. Real simple. You have the true kingdom and you have the counterfeit kingdom. We have more creativity in our pinky than the enemy and his kingdom has in their entire body. They can create nothing. All they do is mimic. We have God Almighty. They have Satan. We have, or who used to be Lucifer. God Almighty has his messengers, the angelos. Okay, the seraphim, the teraphim, the cherubim. Okay, and then there's like 12 choirs. There's like 12 different types of angels. Then he has the fallen angels. God Almighty has his followers here on earth. The devil has his followers on earth. God Almighty has his pastors, evangelists, teachers, prophets. The devil has his pastors, evangelists, teachers, and prophets who have also infected and invaded not only our churches, but then you also see them manifest in witches and warlocks and New Age movement, and all that stuff is being taught also in our churches. It's really not that difficult. That's what's happening here. And we're seeing this in real time, but it goes over everybody's head because we've been caught up in bread and circuses and the tribalism of sports. Look, I played football for years. I love it. I love to hunt. I'd like nothing better than to come up to Virginia and hunt with you, Spencer, and go hunt with you in Alabama. Sit on the stand, we rattle us up a buck. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that are on the line, starting with the well-being of our families, angels and demons. Okay. You absolutely have good angels, okay, the angels of God, and you have the fallen angels. The fallen angels, some of them are not just in hell, but they're under hell. They're in Tartarus, and they're locked up. But you also have demons, okay, the disembodied spirits of the dead Nephilim that are roaming this earth, and they influence everybody. They influence our thinking, that they prey on our emotions, which influences our thinking, which also spurs actions. Watch your thoughts. Thoughts become actions. Actions become habits. Habits become what ends up habits form character, and character essentially determines destiny. There is a process to this, and the devil has millions and billions of case studies. What he does is he manipulates the human form to thwart the will of God. That's as I see it, and that's what I'm seeing now. Because this alien deception, what I think started in earnest back in the 40s. Now, it's always been there, but the veil has been lifting, and back in the 40s with the Nazis, because they used to hold occult seances and occult rituals in Vader Castle in Germany, where they would summon demons, and they got their technology through the influence of demons. In fact, Werner von Braun, one of his things, who is the father of NASA, of our modern space program that we brought over here through Operation Paperclip, he said in the final analysis, it's all going to revert back to aliens, because aliens are going to come, they're going to manifest, and they're going to say that we are the progeny of aliens. They're going to show us, in my opinion, some type of, through AI generated holograms, the crucifixion, that all of this stuff was generated by aliens, and what they did was they allowed us to go through these progressions, not only to learn things, but so that the aliens could come in and save us, and that there are true masters, and that God Almighty is not existent. What I find amazing about all of this, because people are going to get I think they're going to get very upset with the biblical overtone of our conversation here is yeah, but I'd rather have them upset to hear the truth than to tell them a soft lie. At the end of the day, you don't hear people take Mohammed this, or Buddha that. It's Jesus Christ or God Almighty. You don't hear them go after the Vedas in the Hindu religion. You don't hear them go after the Quran. Where do they go? What do they go after? They go after the Bible. Why? Because it's truth. That's a lot, but I hope I touched on some of the things that you had mentioned.
Well, the alien thing.
I'm sorry.
Oh no! I said the alien thing. Hold on. I'm sorry. Yes, we really started seeing it when the Nazis regime was in control in Germany and they were playing with the occult. But we can really go back a lot further in time looking at
Yes, sir.
some of these stone things made, effigies, that you could only really see from the air, like the snake effigy or the bird effigy, and all these different ones all over the earth. I
You're
mean, you have
talking
to get
about the mounts, all the mounts.
yeah, well, just not mounds, but like the snake effigy in
Yeah.
Ohio, the one here in Alabama,
Yeah.
the bird one in Georgia, and they're all over. So there's no way that wasn't for something in the air, if you get much to saying. Of course, we know planes did not exist at that time,
Right.
or helicopters, or balloons. When did balloons come out? Early 1800s, right before the Civil War, I think, or something like that. So,
Early.
yeah. So, for man to go make something like that, or hybrids, because that's sometimes how I look at it, they were making that for something that was up there to see that, to my opinion. I may be totally wrong. But because some of these things would be the size of football fields or even bigger. Well, if you're standing on the ground looking at it, you can't tell what that really looks like.
Yeah.
But in the air, you can see the outline and what it's doing. So that tells me something was coming in the air. Something was coming in. Angels and fallen angels. I do believe that sometimes we are seeing good angels. Then at other times, I think we're seeing fallen angels. These saucers and crafts that people have been drawing on cave walls, writing down in books, or whatever, they've been going on for centuries. I mean, you got rock carvings with what looks like a little spaceship with an astronaut in it. What are those? I really don't know. Could it be angels and fallen angels? We're seeing both of them, or is it the avatars? Like, or what are we seeing? What is going on there? I mean, it's been going on for centuries, but yes, 1940s it really escalated. Even a lot of the pyramids and built, there's been said it looks like it's where you could land something on top of a pyramid, like the Aztec pyramids. I don't know if you could, the Egyptians, because they're come up to a point. They said some of the Aztec pyramids look like something could land on it, almost. I mean, if it did or not, we don't know. But this has been going on for a long time. Here's something I'm going to throw out. When Lot was in Solomon and the angels, God sent Abraham asked God to rescue Lot. So God sent a couple of angels there. When they got to the city of Sodom, people could tell they were different right off the bat. A lot of people think that them people wanted to have homosexual relationships with the angels. That was not what they was really wanting. They was wanting that seed from them angels, right? Because it was in their history about what took place before Noah. That you had these 200 angels that came down on Mount Hermon.
That's right.
They came down, mated with women, made the hybrids, the Nephilim, blah, 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 all that there. Well, that was still prevalent in Abraham and Lot's time, they knew all that history. They knew all about that because so when these guys seen these angels, it wasn't, they don't have sexual relationship, but also they was wanting something from them. They was wanting that seed because they was wanting to get that going back. They wanted that Nephilim race back. So we're really seeing alien life for thousands of years. They've been interacting with humans for thousands of years, whatever they are. I cannot really say what they are. Biblically, I think I know what they are, but I can't really say. Some people say, well, God may have created other life in other places. I don't know about that, because if He did, why didn't He tell us about it? Maybe. I don't know, but I think in the deep, we're going to deal with them more. We're going to see it more and more. And people are seeing it all the time now. I mean, I've seen 2 in my life of whatever they were. I can't say what they were. 2 objects. One that was flying horizontal, like that, and then went vertical in a split second and disappeared. There's no technology on Earth at that time that we had that could do that. You cannot be going horizontal, go vertical that quick and leave our atmosphere or whatever where it went. There's no humanly thing that we have. None of our jets can do that. I don't think back then they could. We might have something now, but I don't think back in the 80s we had anything like it. Early 90s, me and 2 guys coon hunting. This is before I even knew Bigfoot existed. Walking to get dogs on a tree that was treed. All of a sudden, this shadow comes over us. Do not hear nothing or nothing. We look up, this big triangular looking object in the air. A little above the treetop level. No lights, could not hear it. And here's what blew my mind more than any of it. This thing was moving so slow, I don't know how it could fly. Because us humans, we got to have propulsion, right, to keep that thing in the air. We got to have some kind of motor running so many RPMs to keep that thing up there, right? The only thing we can fly right now without propulsion is a balloon. And we even have to have a little propulsion with it to get it up. We got to fill the balloon up with helium, right? But we've got some kind of motor always driving whatever kind of aircraft we got. Helicopter, there's a motor. This, we didn't even see a motor when it got past us a little bit. You couldn't see no fire coming out of the back like you would have with a jet. What kind of technology was that? What was that? Yes, it could have been human. It could have been military. It could be something that none of us really know about. Or were we looking at something from something somewhere else? So there's some other things I've heard pop up. We're looking at holograms. We're not really looking at the real stuff. I don't know. There's some people saying that holograms can be shot up in different places, and it makes us think we're really looking at something and we're not. Does that technology exist? I don't know. To that point that you could put something that looks like it's in space with a hologram. I don't know if we have that technology. But so is some of this stuff being projected out there to make us start paying that more attention for a reason? But yet, if you go back through time, man has been dealing with something coming from up there. Every time you turn around, we're dealing with. You go back, look at all this different things. Something's coming from up there,
Every time you turn around, we're dealing with something from up there. I will say my final part on this. You know what I've learned in like 8 years, 9 years of doing the Bigfoot thing? Might be
Not
a little
nothing.
bit longer. Might be a little
Not
bit
nothing.
longer than that, but uh, so I've met more people that I consider family doing this that I've made friends with than any other time in my life. But let me point out something. I've been there whenever people have heard a booger yell for the first time. They're like, "What the hell is that? What is that? What is that?" And I've seen what I think was a ghost, but I've heard other people talk about stuff like that. And do you know what boogers and dogman and seeing a ghost and somebody talking about an alien experience? Do you know what all that has in common? Has the same thing in common as like some of my friends that were in the military that, saw other of their friends in service getting killed and everything. It makes you realize that there's something more than this regular everyday life that we live. And in my opinion, at the end of the day, this is just me speaking out loud and out of turn and uncalled for. But at the end of the day, if that brings you closer to going, God exists, or if you can't even get that out of your mouth, if you go, there's something more than this day to day life that we all live. If that makes you question that, and then hopefully you get to what else is out there and God exists, I consider it a good thing. And I will go back to my last point. If this is what it takes to shake someone up, if aliens landing in the middle of Washington D.C. and coming out and saying, "Hey, we're here, we exist, you're not alone," it communicates to people that there is way more than what they think is out there, just like seeing a booger or anything as mundane as that. And if that brings them closer to God, good. And at the end of the day, if it's God's will and this is what's meant to happen, you can't change it. I'm fine with that too. And there may be some hard times. If you read the Bible at the end of days, there's a lot of stuff that goes down that people are not going to be happy with. If that's what it comes down to, though, because that's what it takes to get to the end where God actually reestablishes control of things, I'm fine with all that. So, just saying, no matter which way it goes, I have high optimism, but I think everybody better be paying attention to what's going on right now because there is crazy stuff happening right now.
Very well said, Spencer.
I think so too. I mean, because we're approaching the end of the age, as it talks about in Matthew 24. And again, I would encourage everyone to read that. One of the things that I would say about you mentioned religion, which I was going to touch on. I'd like to change that word for relationship because Christianity is not religion, it's about relationship. It is not, it is acknowledging that there is a creator God, that he is an omnipotent, omniscient, all knowing, all loving, gracious, and merciful Father, creator God, who is Jesus Christ, okay, who sent his only begotten Son. It's all of that. But really, it comes down to if you were to encapsulate the Bible, it is about love, no question. But it's about redemption, no question. But it's about relationship. Okay, one of the things that we've discussed here tonight is the fracturing of relationship. Why? The fracturing of relationship first with God and then with each other. Okay, the royal law, and I'm not going to wax any more biblical than what I've just done, is that you love the Lord your God with all your mind, your heart, your mind, and your will and your soul. Second component to the royal law is you love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, we've stopped doing that. Okay, and part of that is because of the fracturing of relationships, because people have isolated themselves. They've given up their sovereignty. They've given up their control. What do tyrannical governments want you to do? Give up your sovereignty.
100%.
And that's what we're seeing on a daily basis. You see this continually. You also you would ask also about the influence of angels and demons. Where are they? Are they the same thing? No, not really. Yes and no. Okay, the demons are spirits of disembodied spirits of the dead Nephilim. But you do have fallen angels, and you have the angels of God who have different offices. However, and they influence. They are messengers. They are warriors. They influence. They intercede. It's all of this to fulfill his will, his plan, and purpose for each one of us. And they also protect. But then you have the fallen angels who also influence. They also intercede. What they do is they fulfill their master's will, which is to steal, kill, and destroy. It comes down to seed every single time. From the days of Adam and Eve to the days of Noah to the present, it's always been about the seed war, not just the physical seed and perverting and polluting the generation of man, but also the spiritual seed, because you just hit on it again, Spencer. I mean, everything you have said has been right on time, every single bit of it. This comes down to a choice. We have a choice to make. We're given free will. And more so than that, those choices are driving a lot of what we're seeing, because we chose to give up control of our lives. We chose to elevate something and somebody else other than God Almighty. That's what this comes down to. And it doesn't matter if people don't believe that, because the people that are in control, that also driving this narrative, they do believe it. You see it. They have rewritten history. Okay, one of the discussions that Mark and I have had, and this can be another topic of discussion for another time, is Tartaria or Tartaria. What, I don't even know how you pronounce it. I think it's Tartaria. Okay, the technology has always been there. When the angels came down, specifically the fallen angels, the 200 from Mount Hermon, when there was the initial cosmic anarchy, they taught the cutting of roots, which is the use of drugs. They taught the making of weapons of war, and they taught war. They taught the sensuality, the arts of sensuality, not just for men, but for women. They taught the perversion of the seed of man and woman. They taught all of those things. There you have the advent of everything. Okay, the sensual pleasures, the sensual things that drive us into the soulish realm, out of the spirit realm, because we're a tripartite being. We're spirit, we're soul, and we're body. Most people live out of their soul or their body, which and the spirit is down here. When the reality is the true alignment is we should be living from our spirit, which should be in control of our soul, which absolutely controls and influences the impulse of the flesh. But we've got it completely backwards, which is why we drive into the cataclysms that we're seeing now. It comes down to a pretty simple logic if you apply it and you listen and you watch. But we're so caught up in ourselves that these things pass us by. And we have consigned ourselves, we've consigned our bodies, our minds, our will, our emotion, and our families to slavery, because that's what this comes down to. These people with Tartaria, there was technology that was available to us back in antiquity. I'm talking about in Bronze Age, and they've uncovered a lot of this stuff, but you don't see it. Tartaria, you had wonderful Gothic structures. In fact, I was thinking about this today. You see the mythological sort of alchemic environment of the steampunk age. But if you look at all that stuff, a lot of those structures and a lot of the technology that they had in that age, which was the latter part of the 19th century, that all speaks of the advent of, or the evidence of another civilization, a higher form, not just not of man, but of pre-industrial age, that absolutely had structures that eclipsed the accomplishments in the late 19th century and the early 20th century in the industrial age. But all of that stuff was erased. And they said, and I've read this in a couple of different articles that one of the reasons for the Great War, World War I and World War II, was to absolutely clear the earth off the face of the earth. A lot of those structures, a lot of those complex structures from Tartaria. Furthermore, giants. Okay, to the winner goes the spoils, and they always rewrite history up until I would say the latter part of the 19th century. The knowledge of giants, the evidence of giants, and the acknowledgement that giants roamed this earth was very common. In fact, Abraham Lincoln referenced giants in one of his addresses. But after that, you don't hear about it. You don't even see it. The Smithsonian has hid or destroyed a lot of these giants' bones. Why? Because what that does is it flies in the direct face of the narrative for, I'm going to take a lot of people off on this, for evolution. I mean, again, there is so much to this, and it's so simple. But I've dedicated, I won't say I've dedicated my life, but I've studied this for many, many years. And you keep coming up to the same sources, the same conclusion every single time. And all of it is that, first of all, you extricate or eliminate God out of the environment, out of man's consciousness, and he is susceptible to every type of deception available, all through our senses. And he gets enslaved by them.
Well, Spencer, you're 100% right that God's will is going to happen no matter what. His way and nobody else's way. That's the way it's going to happen. He does, but David's right. He gives us free choice. He gives us free will, either be with him or not to be. Yeah. But his will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
There we go.
And so you're 100% right. We've got to live by faith. But also, you're 100% right. We got to show people what deception could be. That way they don't fall in that trap and get into it. Everything David said is, to me, is right worth and what you said. Even though we've all said some little things differently, we're all still on that same path.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we're still on that same path. I know that we could go down 100 million rabbit holes tonight. We could still be pulling rabbits out of the hat. So, I mean, we can go deep. This stuff, like I said before, it just starts doing that number, you know. And but one thing right is, like you said, God is in control.
If you can acknowledge, you know, it's like in the Bigfoot world, and man, I hate to get on this kind of granular level, but it's true. You know, every Sunday I have a show dealing with Bigfoot stuff, right? And you have to be careful talking about what some people call the woo stuff, because you don't want to offend the people that are flesh and blood. And everybody that's going to watch this, everybody that has ever seen my show, they know what I'm talking about. Also, by the way, Mark, you're going to lose about 40 or 50 subscribers because some of the people that watch your stuff watch my stuff, and you just said I was 100% right 2 times in a row. You're definitely going to lose some subscribers over that. But my point is, you have to get out people. For anybody that sees this and sees my show, and you're like, oh, he's normally talking about Bigfoot. You have to get out of that bubble. Go back to how we started the conversation with anything can become what you say, Mark, you can get obsessed with anything and it can just take you over, and that's not healthy or something to that degree.
Comes idolatry.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you shall have one God. But anyway, my point at the end of the day is maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I know that God's will be done. And if any of this stuff, if you hear it there, like he was saying, there's so many ways that we could go with this. I mean, it'd take 20 shows of talking about one aspect of this to cover one aspect of this, and then you still wouldn't have it covered. But the alien thing, the Bigfoot thing, the angel thing, the AI thing, it's all connected. I think we all agree on that. It's all connected. I'm not the biblical scholar that Dave is, or Mark to that.
Stop.
Oh, shut up. You shut up. You know what I'm saying. But anyway, Dave's got this stuff chapter and verse. So does Mark. I don't. I openly admit that. But in my simple redneck mind, it's all connected. If it makes you go, oh my gosh, there's something more than this day-to-day life, and for the love of God, stop texting everybody and using your phone all the time, and like actually have real conversations. Go outside, get some sunlight, play in the dirt, go hunting. I don't care. Go swimming. I don't care. But if any of that makes you closer connected to God, that's a good thing. At the end of the day, God wins, everything else loses. I'm a simpleton. That's my point of view. I can't quote all this kind of stuff, and I can't go into the details like everybody else. But at the end of the day, God wins, the devil loses. If aliens show up tomorrow, it'll just bring people closer to God, in my opinion. And it's almost 11 o'clock, y'all, and I got to work tomorrow, so I'm bouncing out of here. Wrap it up, Dave. Clean up my stuff, Dave. Wrap it up.
Brother, but I don't really need to. I mean, you said it all. God, at the end of the day, God wins. It's that simple. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The earth is mine. The souls are mine. The gold is mine. The silver is mine. God is always good. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, and at the end of the day, we make one of two choices. It's either a right choice or it's a wrong choice. God good, devil bad. And seek him, seek a relationship, not a religion, seek a relationship. And to hit on what you said, seek relationship, reestablishing relationships with your family, with friends, with people. That's what it's about. That's what this is about. The deception, that's part of the deception. Feed your soul through relationships with other people. Sow into them, they sow into you. Okay, I'm catching your spirit. I'm catching Mark's spirit. You're catching mine. There is an exchange here. The people that are listening, they're catching the spirit of this, whether they like it or not. Okay, and we are all in concert. Every bit of this has built, and you can listen to this, and I can guarantee you 3 or 4 different times, and you're going to get different messages out of this that all build on the same thing every single time, because we're in agreement here. That's part of relationship. That's what this is about. It's about relationship, and it's about seeing things as they really are, not as they're projected to be. And that's what we're seeing. It's like we live in a matrix, like a hologram. That's no lie. Because of the programming. Why? Because we gave up control willingly for the short term. It's the microwave generation. The short term. We want short term or immediate satisfaction. And we have foregone the task, if you will, the responsibility, in fact, the privilege of cultivating the richer areas, the most important things in our lives, starting with relationships, relationship with God, relationship with each other. And we become shallower, and we become deceived, and we become controlled as a result of it. I mean, you can go off into food, you can go off into, to drugs, all of that stuff, because that all those things are mechanisms for control. But we're all saying the same thing here. Open your eyes, be alert. Okay, the cryptid stuff is fun, but at the end of the day, that is only one minor component. The bigger issue, the coming deception, is the AI and this alien deception. I guarantee you.
I agree.
At the end of the day, no matter what, okay, man knows the spirit of man. God speaks to us in our spirit, but he also speaks to us through other people. But if we cut those things off, if we destroy those relationships, then we become isolated and much more easily controlled. That's part of the whole point here.
Well, fellas, we've close to 2 hours now. I know Spencer needs to get into bed. And I know you too, David, because you got to work day shift tomorrow too. If y'all good with it, here in a couple of weeks, if y'all are willing to come back home, we'll do a question and answer live one night. If that's good with y'all, is that?
If
That's
people
great.
want to, yep.
If people have a question, if they have questions, hopefully we can provide answers.
And they may bring something up we didn't think about.
They might.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I appreciate both of you being on. I know we've bounced around here and there, but I think everybody's getting the point what we're trying to say.
I don't think you did like you think. I mean, you two guys, honestly, gentlemen, you really set the groundwork on stuff, and I thank you. I mean, you really did. More so than
I
what
think
you
all
think.
three of us are on the same page.
Because I was taking notes. I mean, you guys were just like, just kind of bouncing, just building off of one another.
I think we covered a lot of ground, and there's going to be a lot of people that'd be like, "Hey, I thought you were going to go more on this subject," and then you start talking about something else or something else. But I don't think there's any other way to introduce the subject to the masses, to everybody that watches us all the time. I think you have to kind of just throw it out there. And you know what? If people want to talk more about one specific thing, that's good. That's great. I mean, and people, we can get into it. They can get into it. But if the overall point is that people start paying attention and open their eyes to the connection between all of it, I'm happy with it. Thank you for having me on, Dave. I would hate to have you for like a damn college professor that I had to take notes off of, because I cannot keep up with like 1/4 of what you said.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, Mark, don't put me on a show with Dave ever again.
Why? Spencer, brother.
Dave starts talking about that. I'm like, damn, I need to have a Bible laying right here for reference whenever he starts talking. I can't look it up fast enough.
I hate to say this to you, but my responses were in direct accord with the stuff you were saying, because I was like, you were bringing stuff up, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't even think of that.
Well,
and then Mark would say something, he'd use a couple words, and I was like, man, this is just, all this stuff, it starts getting me my kind of the things rolling, and I'm like, holy smokes.
What this does is bring, I think all three of us brought out good points. We backed each other up when we could. And this is what gets it started, is this right here. This gets it to building, where we can have more shows on this, go deeper, because I don't know everything. I tell you that now. But
I'm just telling you, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't. I wasn't too all across the board, but I'm going to tell you, you two fellas pretty much set the tone and helped me get my thoughts in order.
No,
you're fine, Dave. I knew where
You were great.
I think it was a good show. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording, and then we'll get off here. But everybody, y'all go check out Spencer over at Woodwalkers, him, Misty, and Greg. Of course, all of our other friends with their podcast, Old Line Cryptids, Sawdust Beast. Lord, I can't remember everybody. I hate to say that, but you know who I'm talking about. There's a lot of other places that you can go watch where some of this stuff we talked about tonight. And some of them's even starting to talk about the cryptids a little bit because they're seeing where all this is kind of coming together.
Really?
There's starting to be ministers coming to light going, hey, wait a minute. There's more to this. There's more to this. But now their end is biggest thing is be right with Christ, and I totally agree. But I'll go ahead and end this. So everybody, we love y'all. We'll try to have a question and live here pretty soon when Spencer and Dave is able to get back on. I don't know what day this will come out on, but we'll talk with y'all later. And y'all tell them bye, and I'll go ahead and end this recording real quick.
God bless y'all. Thanks for listening. Love you guys. Thank y'all for keeping me straight.
All right.
I'm just happy to be on here with these guys. I love everybody. Thank you. I hope you think a little bit about what we brought up tonight, and maybe it stirs something inside of you and you go to looking a little bit deeper into it. Y'all take care.
Bye now.
We'll see y'all.